Just testing.
Oh, there we go. Good evening, everyone. I've got 6 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting October 24th to order. Roll call, please.
Garner. Miller.
Here.
Daffer. Turner. Kehoe.
Here.
Morgan. Kirkman.
Here.
Selman. Here. Van Acker.
Here. All right. Do we have a report on council actions, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. A couple of items happened at our City Council. The first one was there were 2 variances for sign height and size that along the freeway. A couple of stores, Jackson's stores, were requesting larger signs and taller signs. Those got continued to the November 6th meeting, so no decision on that one yet. But the next one was the annexation and zoning to RS7 for Bentley Meadows subdivision. This is off of Grays Lane and just north of Amity, south of Victory. This subdivision was approved and as proposed and as you recommended.
Okay. And the communications have got you're given the 2023 third quarter density report.
So I also wanted to just let you know that on November 28th, we would normally be meeting, but because it's Thanksgiving the week before and all my staff are going to be out and not submitting staff reports, I'm proposing that we not have a public hearing that evening. And so I'll send out some information to you and we'll put it on the website and everything, but right now I'm not scheduling any public hearings for that evening. Okay, so density report. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start with preliminary plats. You can see the location of these preliminary plats to the north and a little scattered to the south there. A little closer view of the northern section. Again, these are from the last 12 months up to 9/30. And then the southern half of those. And then the specifics. You can see here that 96 multifamily units were approved. Again, these are only those that are approved through the platting process and may not include all of the multifamily that was approved. But and then single family, there were 667. This is significantly less units than were approved by this time last year. In 2022, in this same quarter of 2022, 331 multifamily units and 1,858 single-family residential units had been approved in the previous 12 months. So significantly less. You can see that drop off for preliminary plats. And here's the final plats. Kind of scattered all over the place, but mostly to the northwest and to the southeast.
Rodney?
Yeah.
On the maps that you handed to us, the enclaved areas seem to be way less than what they've been in the past. Did they not include the enclaved areas, or are they decks getting filled in?
Yeah, those, the final plats that have been happening, you can see some of those on this screen here. Christy, can you point to some of those that are enclaved that were kind of within the city boundaries? Yeah, you can see that there. Seven Maples, Parker Estates. Those are ones that have filled in these little lots that are totally surrounded by the city. That's really good progress.
That's what we have tonight. The third application we had tonight, exactly like that.
Right. So again, those are really good efforts to preserve the ag land in the surrounding community outside of our existing city boundaries. That's the best kind of development you can have from a planning perspective. You've already got utilities and transportation there. So it's some of the best development you can have. Yeah, so that is filling in, but we continue to see expansion of our boundaries as well. So you can see that some of that here, up to the north especially, but also a little bit to that southeast. A little closer view of the north. You can see all those developments that were approved and their number of units. Here's the ones to the south. And then total number of units were only single family. So again, these are things that you're going to be seeing pretty quick after these final plats have been approved. So 760 single family units were approved. Again, we have approved far less final plat residential units this year than in the previous year. This time last year, 88 multifamily units were approved, and 1,612 single-family units had been approved through final plats in the previous 12 months.
Rodney, is that the trend seeing across the valley?
Yes. In fact, it's national. Because of interest rates dropping, or excuse me, increasing.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I wish. But because of interest rates increasing and other factors, we've seen a drop. However, what I have seen is that we are weathering that much better than other communities. Other states especially are struggling to see much growth at all. And City of Nampa is weathering that a little better. I think, just my opinion, I haven't looked at the data for demographics exactly, but it feels like we've got a lot of move-ins from other states still. And so we're still getting that pressure to build, including interest from young families that are just starting, wanting to move into homes. We see a lot of that still as well. And finally, the short plats. There were only 2. And not much to talk about here, except that in 2022, quarter 3, we had approved 66 multifamily units and 8 single-family units through the short plat process in the previous 12 months. So not a lot of difference in single-family, but certainly a difference in multifamily. And that is all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Questions? All right, thank you very much. Go ahead and take a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kehoe, seconded by Selman. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda is adopted. And we'll move right along to public hearings for this evening. If you haven't already and you would like to speak on any items, please sign up to speak. And we'll just go through kind of how the meeting will go this evening. We'll have the applicant come up. We'll have 7 minutes to present his or her proposal. And then we will hear the staff report that has been prepared by the staff. They'll go over that. We have that all in our packets as well and have reviewed it. And then we will open the public testimony. If you're signed up to speak for, against, or undecided, just please state what you're feeling, and you've got 3 minutes to tell us what's on your mind. We will then call the applicant back up to address any concerns or questions on the staff report, and then close the public hearing. We'll deliberate amongst ourselves and render a decision on each item. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start with our first item this evening is a subdivision preliminary plat approval and final plat recommendation for Kohler Lawn Columbarium, a 30.3 square foot portion at 76 6th Street North for City of Nampa Parks Division, Cody Swander, to create a new columbarium. Am I saying that right? Columbarium. Of 48 niches in the established Kohler Lawn Cemetery. Rodney? No. Sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the rest of the commission. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Cody Swander. I'm with the City of Nampa Parks and Recreation Department. I'm here seeking approval for the addition of a fourth columbarium niche wall at Kohler Lawn Cemetery that is identical to the existing three columbarium structures that are already on site at that facility. We're seeing an increase of need from the public for these services provided by Kohler Lawn and the city of Nampa, and this new additional columbarium offers 48 additional spaces.
All right.
I have a question.
Questions? Yeah.
This is not pertaining to tonight, but overall it does. How many lots or spaces do you have left? What do you expect the lifespan of the cemetery is going to be?
Yeah, good question, Commissioner Kehoe. The expectation, if we stay on current rates for internments, in-ground internments, we have somewhere between 15 and 20 years left of space available at the cemetery.
Then what happens after that? If say in 35 years, the cemetery's been closed, there's been no new interments because there's no space, it just sits there, everything just sits there and for 80, 90, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years?
I believe that has not been a bridge we've crossed yet. I think that the current plan would be it would be treated much like a public park and maintained and by the city, and no further spaces available for sale unless the city were to obtain adjacent property and make spaces available. And there currently is adjacent property already owned by the city that has plans for ground internments and cremation remains.
Okay.
So we have potential plans with
I don't
future
have to worry
funding to
about there'll be
build.
space for me.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Call you back up at the end.
Thank you, Chairman.
Now, Rodney.
Yep, thank you. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, just a little bit of trivia here. The plural of columbarium, I've learned, is columbarium. So that was a mistake in my staff report, but I've learned that since. So staff recommendation, you can see the project here, and you can also see the other columbarium in the immediate area. So it's just adding to that general area, just one more structure. So our recommendation is that it be approved because it is reasonably, that it follows the code required for approving a columbarium. And I'll go through that in just a second here, but just quickly, to the north is I-84 and some manufacturing buildings, IL zoning, and then Leah's Landing RV Park, and that's the IP Industrial Park Zoning District. To the east is some more manufacturing buildings and Leah's Landing. To the south is single-family and multifamily residential zoned RML. To the west is Centerpoint RV Park, some single-family residential, a warehouse, some auto repair, and Viable Solutions selling kratom, which is zoned ILRS. And I've already pointed out there's other columbarium in the same area. So here's the zone. You'll notice that years ago when this was annexed into the city, I'm not sure how it happened because by state law you're supposed to zone a property that gets annexed into the city. For some reason, this didn't get zoned. So we still don't have a zone to apply to this location, which made this a little bit difficult in trying to determine if it followed code. But here's the plat where that columbarium will go, and then kind of an elevation to show those niches. Building department just said that they'd need to follow city code. Okay, so applicable regulations. We have a section in here that just says that they will follow the platting process to be approved. And how are plats approved? They are approved comparing the plat to code and seeing if city code applies. So that's what this section says as well. The way you have to approve this is to see if it complies with the code and follows the platting process. Proposed conditions of approval are those written by a building department, follows code. And then here are some potential motions for your consideration. Again, we don't have any other code to apply to this because there's no zoning assigned to this property, which is a strange situation, but it's a columbarium in a cemetery. So I'm going to leave it at that.
So we can make the deduction that it's, so, Rodney, Chair, good, sorry. If there's no zoning there, I mean, doesn't that violate city code, trying to plat a parcel that's unzoned,
It's state code.
or state code?
Yeah, but the criteria for approving a columbarium is city code. So it's a little strange, but it's been done many times before in this same area. And so I'm not sure what to apply to this code. And it just seems to fit what's already existing
Sure.
there. So,
But just to cross the T and dot the I's, could we just rezone it
yep, that's definitely something we need
and
to
just
do.
make sure that this question doesn't come up later on
Yeah,
down the road?
yeah.
Why hasn't
agreed.
it been done?
I don't know. It's
I
just,
mean, we've talked about this, I don't know how many times in the last few years, but yet never got resolved.
yeah, I don't remember us talking about this specifically.
We've had, in the cemetery, in this very cemetery, we've had other applications, and we had the same issue come up.
Yeah, so that's definitely something we need to go through. Just takes city staff and time, and
Make a
So-
motion that city staff get that done?
we will work on this.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, because, like I said, it complicates the issue because
It
it's
does.
not any
Yeah.
guideline to go by.
yep,
There wouldn't be any legal implications or ramifications if this was not rezoned and we approved this? Just kind of
No.
looking down the road a little bit.
no, because the preliminary plating process is a local thing.
Okay.
And so you're approving the preliminary plat and recommending a final plat approval or denial, either one of those. But I don't think that there's any concerns here because the annexation is what is hinged here on zoning. And it's already been annexed. So somehow the state approved this annexation years ago, regardless of it not having a zone, under the, presumption that it's gonna be a cemetery. So they approved it to the city as an annexation. And,
So the state's the one that messed up, not the city.
well, I would argue that both of us did.
Okay.
I'm just trying to give you a
Yeah.
way out.
Sorry, I wish I could say that we didn't mess up, but it looks like we did. We should have included zoning.
Rodney, and I would say the cemetery was in long before the
Yeah.
requirements for zoning were ever established, and so that's likely why it's.
We've had other
unzoned.
Yeah.
corrections we've made in the past where something was not zoned, and we applied zoning to it. I mean, and we've had this issue come up, and we just didn't do it.
Yeah,
Seemed like we,
we just need to do it on this
Yeah.
one now.
Okay. Moving on. All right, we will go ahead and move to public testimony for this item. Is there anybody signed up for, against, or undecided?
No, sorry.
No one signed up? Okay, is there anybody present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this item? All right,
I make a motion, we close public hearing.
let's, anything you want to add, Cody, before we close? Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Selman to close the public hearing, second by Morgan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed. What would you guys and gals like to do?
So this plat is just as big as the structure? Is there similar plats for the existing columbarium?
Yeah.
So, okay, this is something we've done before and
Yep.
everything. So. Anybody have, I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision preliminary plat and recommend approval of the final plat for Kohler Lawn Columbarium, 30.3 square foot portion of parcel, this one, at 76 6th Street North for City of Nampa Parks Division, Cody Swander, with all conditions listed in the staff report and to adopt the proposed findings as stated in the staff report.
second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Morgan, second by Kehoe to approve the subdivision preliminary plat and recommend approval of the final plat for this item. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries, and thanks for being here. All right, item number 2 on the agenda this evening is an annexation and zoning to BC Community Business Zoning District and potential development agreement for 0 and 0 Haley Avenue. 1.6 acres for Rocky Mountain Companies representing Karcher Middleton LLC. 2 parcels will be incorporated into a multiple building commercial retail development on the properties to the south. Is the applicant here this evening? Come on up. And please state your name and address for the record and tell us what you'd like to do.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Chair. My name is Ben Millick. I work for Rocky Mountain Companies, 350 North 9th Street, Boise. Is there a way to control this? Okay, just say next slide. So just a glance at us, we're a local real estate developer, all commercial, do a large majority of our projects in Idaho. And this project is very similar to several other commercial subdivision type projects that we've done that I'll show you later. There it is. So the project that is the subject property of this annexation that we're requesting today. The subject property is just the rectangular green pasture in the upper right corner of this image. We already own and has already annexed the larger portion of this corner. So essentially what we're requesting is to add that rectangular pasture, which is 2 parcels, to the overall commercial subdivision, which would, our intent is to create about 7 commercial pads. So this is more of a plan view. Right now we are in for permit for our infrastructure for these 7 commercial pads. We can construct this infrastructure with or without the annexation of this subject property because the majority that we own adjacent is already annexed and zoned BC zoning. So we're essentially just asking to add this pasture to the overall commercial development because it's kind of surrounded. Right now it's residential Canyon County land and it's surrounded by our BC city zoning. And it kind of makes sense to include it as part of our commercial development. So just some history on this project and in the timeline of the past. Back in 1970, the Karcher Acres plat was created, which was a full residential subdivision. In 1971, one of the residents requested Canyon County P&Z to allow the frontage on Karcher to be commercially used, and they approved that. So it was operated as commercial land on Karcher for the next approximately 50 years. And then I believe it was abandoned in the 2000s, and it's kind of been a blighted site since. In 2014, the City of Nampa approved the annexation and rezone, which is exactly what I'm asking again to do today, to annex the larger property, the hard corner, to be part of the city and become BC zoning. And then in 2022, my company purchased the larger property on the hard corner with the intent to develop. At that time, we did not have a plan to annex or purchase the smaller property that is the subject property today. But then as we started to design the infrastructure for the 5 pads at that time on the larger property, we started to get more interest in adding the 2. That's the subject property in this case. So just a few months ago in June, we purchased the subject property with the intent to annex it and add it to this development. And we had our neighborhood meeting, talked to the neighbors about it shortly after buying it. And then we estimate to start construction here in the beginning of December and finish the infrastructure portion by early spring next year. So we always get the question asked of what users do we expect to go here. So I'm just going to show you several developments that are similar size that we've done in the Treasure Valley here that have similar type users that we envision here at this development. Eagle and Pine on Eagle Road, we have several restaurants, car wash, bank, mortgage office. Chin and Linder, a multi-tenant building, a fast food, car wash, bank, oil read, primary health, Caldwell, Maverick, primary health, couple fast food, a bank, senior living. So these are just several examples of what we've done recently that we envisioned this to be very similar to. And that's kind of my presentation. Open for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? All right, we'll hear from staff and call you back up at the end. Parker.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. The action requested is a recommendation of approval or denial for annexation. The surrounding area, there's Canyon County residences to the north and west. To the south is the vacant BC commercial lot that the applicant is the owner of. Across Karcher is urgent care. And to the east is the gas station and currently vacant land. The correspondence, this will be subject to Title IV building regulations. This is 1 mile from Fire Station 4 with a 4-minute response time. There were several comments from engineering, as is typical, about utilities, right-of-way improvements, and site access, as well as a traffic impact study review. The ITD had comments as well about the traffic impact study and the frontage improvements as well. So in regards to the expansion of State Highway 55. The comprehensive plan has these parcels designated as medium density residential. However, they're adjacent to commercial designation, which is the designation on the parcel to the south the applicant also owns. The comprehensive plan has a definition for neighborhood commercial that's typically adjacent to collector and local roads, supports small-scale commercial uses that would support this designation in this area. Commercial development, it goes on to say, near neighborhoods should include groupings of services, such as barbershops, hairstylists, daycare, et cetera, as well as professional office and services. So there's a number of commercial opportunities that would be welcome near residences. The comprehensive plan also defines compatible design as a visual relationship between adjacent and nearby buildings and the immediate streetscape. So kind of similar bulk standards and massing. The definition for incompatible land uses in the comprehensive plan is land uses which are known to or expected to cause environmental problems for one another. The surrounding properties in the area, as stated before, there's a gas station, there's a church on the opposite corner, and the urgent care as well. And then a number of undeveloped commercial properties that are in the city. The BC zoning district intended to create, preserve, and enhance areas with a wide range of retail services and service establishments. This is our general commercial zoning. The district also includes some non-commercial developments, such as multifamily, which is a conditional use permit that was attempted on this property prior and did not work out. The property to the south and to the west are, when they were annexed in, there was a development agreement that was part of that listed requirements for right-of-way dedication and frontage improvements, as well as restricted the number of access on Middleton Road. The annexation and development of the requested parcels will utilize the same access as that on Middleton Road for the southern portion, as well as make improvements along Haley Avenue, which is the local road to the north. The comprehensive plan further defines objectives and strategies for economic development. Objectives as far as encouraging development in businesses and locations that are accessible by walking and biking, supporting entrepreneur and startup businesses, providing a business-friendly environment, and then generally just growing the entertainment business as well as other businesses in Nampa. So looking at the site plan that was submitted and that is currently under review by staff, a 15-foot landscaper is going to be required along Karcher and Middleton Road and Haley Avenue for commercial uses. And a landscape for that will be reviewed at the time that these properties are developed. Right-of-way has been dedicated along Karcher Road, and additional right-of-way may be required for the intersection of Haley and Middleton. ITD agreed to construct all the Middleton frontage improvements along this development and the turn lanes as part of their ongoing project on Karcher Road. And then the developer would be responsible for reimbursing that cost to ITD. The backbone road there, as you can see on the plan, will create 3 access points into the development. And that's part of the permit that's currently being reviewed. And there's a closer look at that. Part of that site improvement permit included landscaping adjacent to the residences at the northwest corner. You can see that landscape buffer here. So the findings in this case, the properties proposed for annexation fall into Category A. The property owner is given consent to annex. It is contiguous with the BC zoning district. The proposed annexation and establishes BC zoning that is compatible with the adjacent zoning districts. It would be creating a larger commercial property. And we have zoning standards that would restrict large commercial development adjacent to residential uses. Mind you that these are county residences, not city-owned residences, but there would be restrictions as far as lighting and the signage and some of those things. The proposed uses would be reasonably compatible. This is a busy corner here that fits commercial uses. The area can be, meets the goals listed in the comprehensive plan. We covered some of those things listed in the comp plan and would be in the interest of the public. They would be making infrastructure improvements, frontage improvements. Conditions of approval are listed in the staff report, as well as any that you would wish to add, and there's a potential motion, and I'll stand for any questions.
Walker, did you work on this application originally, or did you just pick it up at this phase?
Chairman, when it was first applied, are you referencing the multifamily it was applied for previously?
Yes.
I'm aware of it. I wasn't the staff person, I don't believe. It's been a while.
In my mind, I'm thinking that we asked the developer about salvaging some of those trees or as many as they could. Am I dreaming that, or did we actually talk about that with them?
Chairman, we have a process established with the city where they contact the forester, and he recommends whether those trees are to be removed, if they're desirable or not, and then makes a recommendation whether those should be or not. The trees have subsequently been removed as part of their land clearing process, so.
Commissioner Kehoe, a number of the trees were in conflict with where the road has to go, and so they needed to come out regardless.
Okay. Didn't want people to think we didn't think about these things anymore after we said something.
Any other questions?
Chair, I have a question, but it's probably going to be for the applicant when he comes back.
Wait, we'll go to public testimony then. Is there anybody signed up this evening to speak on this?
No, Mr.
application?
Chair, no one has signed up to speak.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this proposal or application? All right. Come on back up if you would, and we'll. May have a question.
May have missed it, but the neighborhood meeting that you had, I think it was back in June.
Mhm.
What was was there any turnout? What was the?
Yeah,
What were
so-
the results? of
Yeah, I missed that part of my presentation. I should have mentioned that. So my company's been involved with the neighbors several times throughout this process. This one was the formal neighborhood meeting that was required, but we've had several before this. We had probably about, I want to say, eight people show up. All of them within walking distance in those houses nearby, and a lot of them were the regulars from the past meetings.
On your neighborhood meeting sign-in sheet, you have 13 lines filled in, and some of them have husband and wife, so it's 13 plus.
Okay, yeah, I can't recall, it was a few months ago, but it was
Sorry,
a good
I
crowd.
must have missed that.
I think that also includes myself and a couple other Rocky Mountain Company staff members that were there.
And if I may interrupt,
Yeah, please.
I want to congratulate you for putting in the neighborhood comments. A lot of times we don't ever see those, and I think it was very helpful to see their comments and to see your reaction to their comments. That's not usually done, and I appreciate that being done. It shows to me that you listened to the people because you made corrections where you could. I just wish you could have saved some of those trees.
Yeah, we understand. I could go over some of the neighborhood concerns that we've addressed if you need.
I think I'm okay with them.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions for staff or anything, or are you good?
Nope.
Anybody else, questions for the
yeah, I'm
applicant?
sorry.
Don't go anywhere.
Are you planning on doing any multifamily at this
No.
site? Have you done it at your other sites?
Just that Caldwell site has a senior living facility on it, but we don't plan to do that here.
So it's not really something you guys dabble in, huh?
No. We all do retail, commercial, service, yeah. And we understand the past history with this site and how the neighbors really don't want multifamily.
Okay.
Thanks.
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Miller to close the public hearing, second by Kirkman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed. I think.
Chair, if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of annexation and zoning to BC Community Business Zoning District for 0 and 0 Healy Avenue, totaling 1.6 acres for Rocky Mountain Companies representing Karcher Middleton LLC with all conditions listed in staff report, and adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the report.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kirkman, a second by Kehoe to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning for this item. Is there any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That'll go to City Council. Thanks for being here. Have a good evening. All right, item number 3 on the agenda this evening is an annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district for 0.75 acres of right-of-way and 6.1 acres of developable land, and BC zoning district for 3.29 acres potential development agreement and subdivision preliminary plat for Audrey Acre subdivision at 941 Lake Lowell Avenue for Keyhole LLC.
I may.
Thank you. For 20 single-family detached residential lots, 6 common lots, 1 commercial lot, and an additional 1.6 acres of new right-of-way. Is the applicant here this evening? Come on up and state your name and address for the record, please, and tell us about your plan.
Christy, can you put up the one that shows all the surrounding, there we go. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Blaine Woolmer. Woolmer Engineering is our firm. We're located at 4355 West Emerald in Boise. It's a pleasure to be before you again tonight. I've got a brief introduction to the project, and I'll be happy to stand for any questions after that. The project that lies before you this evening is a proposed annexation zoning assignment and preliminary plat for the Audrey Acres subdivision. The property encompasses 9.39 acres and is located at the southeast corner of Lake Lowell Avenue and Midland Boulevard. It is an infill county island surrounded by the city of Nampa. The subject property is surrounded by developed medium-density residential, lots east, south, and west, and a mini storage facility and veterinarian clinic at the intersection of Lake Lowell and South Midland. Along with the annexation request, we're asking for assigned zoning of RS6, single-family residential, for 6.1 acres of the property, and BC, community business, for 3.29 acres. The property is surrounded by RS6 zoning property, which makes the request compliant with the city's comprehensive plan. The BC zone request is for that portion of the property located at the southeast corner of the intersection. This request is compatible with the existing BC zoning to the north and the west that I just described. The recent signal installation by the city at the intersection of Lake Lowell and South Midland creates additional opportunity for commercial uses. For the residential portion of Audrey Acres, we are proposing 20 buildable lots and 6 common lots. The single-family residential lots vary in size from 6,104 square feet to 17,907 square feet, resulting in a gross density for the residential portion of 3.28 dwelling units to the acre. This density is on the low end of the allowed density range for medium-density residential of 2.51 to 8 dwelling units to the acre. The open space lots total 0.78 acres, which meets the 15% minimum requirement for open space. 5 of the open space lots are a combination of landscape and drainage for stormwater detention and water quality. The 6 non-buildable lots is for access to lots 7 and 8 of Block 2 of the southeast, located near the southeast corner of the site. We are aware that the maximum lot size for the R6 zone is 12,000 square feet, and that 3 of the proposed lots in Audrey Acres exceed that maximum. These larger lots are a result of property boundary configuration and the difficulty in providing access to the lots in the southeast corner. We believe that the larger lots are a benefit to the subdivision, and we'll be asking the City Council for an exception to the requirement for the 3 lots in this case. As indicated in the staff report, city services such as gravity sewer, water, pressure irrigation are adequate, available, and stubbed to the site. We've reviewed this, the staff's report, the conditions of approval. We don't have any questions or comments on those, and we're happy to stand for any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, go ahead.
Do you have any thoughts or plans for the BC, what you would like to have in there?
Our client doesn't have any ideas or doesn't have any thoughts right now for the BC. As this commission is well aware, there's a plethora of uses that can go in the BC zone, either permitted or conditionally permitted.
No rendering plant then, right?
I'm sorry?
No rendering plant.
No, not at this point. No, we anticipate it being community-friendly retail that would serve the community or professional services.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Christie?
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The action requested from you this evening is a recommendation of approval for annexation and zoning of 3.29 acres to BC and 6.1 acres to RS6 at 941 Lake Lowell Avenue, and the preliminary plat for Audrey Acres. So as stated, the property has a BC zone property to the north, which is storage units. And then the Murfield subdivision, which is zoned RS6, is to the south. The Augusta subdivision, which is zoned RS6, is to the east. And the Aspen Grove subdivision to the west is also zoned RS6. And then right there on the corner, there is, to the west, there is a veterinarian's office that is zoned BC. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of the various different services, commercial services, schools, parks, amenities that are within at least a mile of this property. So you'll see 12th Avenue is to the east. The golf course at Red Hawk is to the west. There's a park to the west, and then there's restaurants and a health club and a pharmacy to the north. So this project does not meet the threshold to require a traffic impact study at this time, but will likely need to provide more details as that commercial portion to the north develops out. Right-of-way has been dedicated along a portion of Midland Boulevard for that intersection, and will be required to dedicate the remaining frontage on Midland Boulevard upon annexation. So the building department had their standard requirements for meeting Title IV building codes. The police department stated that they would like a commitment to fund .08 additional officers and .03 additional support staff. And the fire department stated that this project is 1.2 miles from Fire Station 6 with a response time of 5 minutes and will have an increase of personnel demand of .06 firefighters. And the engineering division included their standard comments and list of conditions of approval. So I'm going to address the RS portion first. In the comprehensive plan indicates that this area is medium density residential, which has a density of 2.5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. There are a number of guiding principles found in the comprehensive plan that are outlined as facts in your staff report, a few of those being defined density, smart growth principles, building design, housing affordability, and the need to provide single-family housing with strategies of how to achieve that.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can you go back up just one real quick? The objective number 5 down there where it says welcome diversity in housing, just a clarification on what that means. Is it diversity in the type of housing, the structures, or diversity in like diversity, inclusion, and all that kind of stuff?
Well, in this case, these are going to be fairly compatible with the surrounding residential lots that are already existing. So diversity might be a little bit of a misnomer in this case, but providing housing in general will increase affordability, which I think is part of that strategy.
So it's both?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the comprehensive plan defines compatibility, residential areas, and infill. Staff sees that all of the guiding principles outlined in the comprehensive plan are met by this project. As stated, the property is enclaved and is therefore considered to be infill due to the fact that it's surrounded by properties that are in the city limits and all available, or all city utilities are available. The goals in the comprehensive plan are to encourage development in these areas where they can make efficient use of existing services. So for the zoning, this project is reviewed against Title 10, Chapter 8 for bulk standards and Chapter 3 for allowed uses. Single-family homes are allowed uses in this zone. The proposed RS6 zoning district is a permitted zone under the future land use map designation. And the homes built in this development will match the area in standard building construction. So the number of buildable lots here are 20, which creates a gross density of 3.28, which does fall within that 2.5 to 8 dwelling units per acre in the comp plan. The residential lots cannot be smaller than 6,000 square feet. The smallest lot is proposed at 6104. They should not be larger than 12,000 square feet. As stated, the largest is 17,907. There are 3 lots at the southern end that are larger than 12,000 square feet, and they have indicated that they will be asking City Council for an exception to that standard. The lot widths and depths meet code for the RS zoning. The landscape plan was reviewed and approved by the city forester. There is a 15% open space requirement. They have provided 0.78 acres, which is 15% of the gross project area. They have proposed a pergola-type sitting area with shade structure. It is proposed for the large common lot at the north section of the project and some drainage areas that will be designed in a way that can accommodate open area for outdoor activity while still maintaining appropriate drainage as per the engineering department requirements. They've also provided a pathway to connect to the future commercial lot to the north. So for the BC portion, the comprehensive plan indicates that medium density residential is also on this lot, but there is commercial across Lake Lowell Avenue to the north, and they are requesting to stretch that commercial designation onto this portion of the property, which is allowed in our comprehensive plan. There are a number of guiding principles found in the comprehensive plan that are outlined as facts in your staff report, those being supporting startup businesses, providing a business-friendly environment, encouraging the formation of potentially high-tech businesses in Nampa, development of long and short-term business relationships, and developing retail and service businesses that are accessible by walking or biking. So this project will be reviewed under Chapter 16 of the zoning code, and that sets the standard for this zone. This zone does allow for many different commercial uses, and all of the proposed structures will be subject to future design review. The landscape buffer is required along Midland Boulevard and Lake Lowell Avenue. That will be reviewed at the time of any commercial development or building permits that are pulled on that property. There are 3 criteria for evaluating the request for annexation. The first one is that all landowners consent to the request, which they do. The second is that the property is contiguous to the city limits, which it is. And the last one is that the area can reasonably be assumed to be available for orderly development. In this case, utilities are readily available, and it is enclaved and completely surrounded by city limits. So for zoning, there are 3 criteria, and this is for zoning to RS6. They do propose compatible zoning to the areas surrounding it. They do propose compatible uses to the areas surrounding it, and it is within the interest of the public due to the fact that their subdivision layout will meet city codes, and the traffic infrastructure improvements are either already there or soon to be completed. For the BC zoning, those same 3 criteria apply, and the same is found for that BC zoning due to the fact that there is commercial surrounding that corner. These are the recommended conditions of approval, and these are your potential motions. I will stand for any questions.
Christie, in the packet that we got, it says 3/4 of an acre is set aside for right-of-way and so on and so forth. If the road's already widened and the street lights already, traffic lights are already in, what are they going to use the extra 3/4 of an acre for?
Well, so only a portion of that property was dedicated right-of-way for that intersection improvement. Not all of it has been dedicated. So there's still a portion that needs to be dedicated so that we can widen Midland at a certain point.
Not necessarily now, though.
Not now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Right, seeing none, we'll move on to public testimony for this item. Do we have anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 1 speaker signed up to speak.
Okay, call their name, please.
That would be Miss Barbara Johnson.
Okay. Okay,
They'll call for you.
we'll get to you. Ms. Johnson, please just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Barbara Johnson. I have lived on Augusta Drive at 900 Augusta Drive for the past 18 years. And just before I give my presentation, I'd like to just advise you that I see many holes in the information that has been presented this evening. And one is that there is commercial property on the corners there, but the one with the storage area does not exit onto Lake Lowell. It exits onto Midland. And the other commercial property, the dog pet place, does not exit onto Midland either. It exits onto Lake Lowell. So just for your information, in case you're not familiar with that intersection. I've had the pleasure of presenting a request from the Planning and Zoning a couple of years ago for zoning for a cancer house, and I'm very thankful to you for approving that zoning request. I hope that the same common sense will be given to our request to limit the entrance and exit of the Audrey subdivision through the Augusta subdivision. That's our main concern. We're not concerned about the type of housing that's being provided or the commercial property, although I think that will impact traffic at that intersection greatly. In my former work, I served as a school teacher and administrator. And on the back of every certificate in education, there is a phrase, in loco parente, which means that you treat students with the same care that their parents would. Basically, when the child is at school, you are their parent. So I'm asking you to pretend for a few minutes that this is your subdivision that we're talking about. And what would you do if this was your subdivision? Our request for a single entry and exit to Midland from Audrey Acres subdivision is not a novel idea or a bizarre request. Some of you might live in a subdivision with only one entrance and exit. In Nampa, there are many subdivisions with only one entry and exit.
10 seconds, Ms. Johnson.
I'm sorry.
10 seconds.
Oh,
to
I'm
finish.
right out of time?
Yeah, well, we're about to run out. We got 10 seconds. You have 3 minutes total.
I
Said
see.
at the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting. So wrap it up in about 10 seconds. That'd be great.
Okay. Well, basically, my request is to consider the children that live in this area who play outside. And basically, I don't know if you remember, but Matthew Peltzer, the zoning and planning, has planned a memorial park across the street from Augusta in memory of Matthew. Well, Matthew lived directly across the street from me, and he left behind 2 little girls who play out there all the time. And I can just imagine Matthew looking down from heaven and saying, forget the memorial park. Take care of my children. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the sign-up sheet?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anybody in the audience would like to speak on this application, for, against, or undecided? Whoever would like to go. Just state your name and address for the record, please. And again, 3 minutes of testimony, and tell us if you're for, against, undecided on the application.
My name's Clint Davlin. I live at 809 Augusta. I am nominally against. My reasons are, one of the statements made was that the infrastructure is already in place. That only is true if they're exiting onto Midland, because that's where the infrastructure has been improved. It hasn't been improved through Augusta. So we are still we have one exit through our subdivision, one entrance through our subdivision. So 20 houses, figure on average 2 to 3 cars, that's now 40 to 60 more cars coming down our subdivision roads that have not been improved. They have not been widened. So in that regard, also the fact that it's shifting it from Midland to Lake Lowell, and I would argue that intersection, even with the light, I think some of the staff recommendations were that it will be widened some point in the future, but that doesn't speak anything to Lake Lowell. So again, there's plans to widen Midland, but there's no plans to do anything with Lake Lowell, and yet at that intersection, they're pretty much one and the same. So that's a concern. One of the questions I had just on the side for the commercial is one of the reasons it was allowed per the staff document is because the encouragement of high-tech businesses as well as retail. And yet there's nothing decided on what that commercial is going to be. So how can it be allowed under high-tech businesses when nothing's been decided? So my concern is there's a bit of a rush to bring this in and to make exclusions for lot size and for commercial and for all of these other things in order to get this in place. And yet, at the end, only the people that are really living in Augusta or where Brookwood comes out are going to be impacted. To say that it's super positive is great, except all of these allowances are being made, and my question would be, why are these guidelines in place if there's exceptions, if multiple exceptions can be made as needed, then they're not really rules. They're just kind of in place, but they can be exceeded or accepted at will. So those are my concerns. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to do it now or after we hear from the rest of the?
Christie, excuse me for interrupting. Is there any way you can expand that view of the Augusta subdivision? Where is, okay.
Augusta's the road
Yeah, I
to
see
the
it
north.
now.
Okay.
So this would give them 2 exits if they had this, which they're supposed to under city code anyway, right?
Only if they exceed 30 units per
Couldn't hear
fire
you.
code. Only if they exceed 30 units per
Okay.
fire code.
So they don't, so they're, well. is
It's
that the
it's an
both
older
subdivision?
subdivision, so I'm not sure that it fell under that guidance when it was built. And it really doesn't have an option for a second access at this point. This would create a second access
Right,
to that
which I
subdivision.
think is important, and the fire department, I'm sure, would think it's important.
Potentially, yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, Clark Hansen, 907 Augusta Subdivision, Augusta Drive. I am actually the HOA president of Augusta Sub. I think I can speak for everybody. Our biggest concern is the stub road that's already in our subdivision that is adjacent to the east side of the property that they're proposing. Clint talked about the traffic, and that's our biggest concern is traffic. I don't think that our street is going to handle traffic entering and exiting onto either Lake Lowell or Midland. It's already difficult to get out from our subdivision to go west on Lake Lowell. And a big question is, why do they need 2 entrances and exits, one of them coming on to Midland, and by the looks of it, one of them coming through our subdivision? It, quite frankly, would make better sense to me for them to, if they do need that, to have 2 entrance and exits onto Midland. Midland, it would put them further back from the street light or the traffic light. And that's my big question. And the biggest concern is the traffic through our subdivision. We've got a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Some people that come in there don't really abide by that. We've addressed it a few times. And traffic coming through there in the evening, there's 3 homes. Before I came down here, I drove into that stub road, and then as if I was going to drive out, and there's 3 homes that lights will affect coming out if traffic's coming in late at night, people working late, et cetera, or leaving early in the morning. I'm not opposed to the 20 homes going in there, but I have strong opposition of entering on Augusta Drive. The street is, it is in disrepair. They chip sealed it, and that made it better, but I was guesstimating, let's say there's 20 cars in the morning and 20 cars at night, because there's 20 homes. It could be a lot more than that. I don't know what it would be. But our street and our homes are not going to be able to deal with that kind of traffic. We've got new homeowners, more kids, et cetera. So once again, strong opposition against the entry. And then with the proposal of the commercial building, how are they going to get out, right, being so close to the intersection of Lake Lowell and Midland? And how much more difficult will it make our entrance and exit? There's some elderly people in there that already are having troubles getting out to go west. They turn right and go around the block and come out a different way. The street light or the traffic light made a big difference. But anyway,
time, sir.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak for or against undecided on this? Okay, come on up.
My name is Greg Davis. I live at 1023 Augusta Drive. And I'm a commercial real estate agent, so I don't have any problem with development in general. I actually think this will be a fine development. I would just like to expand on Clark's comments a little bit and say every development I've ever seen, entry and exit usually happens on the property that's being developed, not through other properties. So I would just propose that I would like to see the road that heads as you come off of Midland through that subdivision that's already there to that stub road, and you hit the road that would go kind of northwest, southeast, have that go to the edge of the commercial property and then go out to Midland as far south on the property as possible, but that be their main entry and exit point for both the commercial and the residential. And then even if the stub roads that are already there were accessible for the fire department with the fire barriers that are, you see them at the end of a subdivision sometimes, where they could get through there in an emergency if they needed an extra way to get into the property or to the subdivision. But I do think traffic through our subdivision on Augusta will be very damaging to the neighborhood. So that's basically my only comment. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, anybody else like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? Come on up, sir.
Good evening. David Peterson, 718 Whisperwood Court. We are not contiguous to this subdivision. We're across Lake Lowell. Could you put the slide up that shows the next version of this with the actual plots? I'd like to refer to that. Basically, when I picked this up off the box a week ago Thursday, that's not the one. The one that shows the actual lot lines as the plat is being discussed. Yeah. Regarding the discussion of coming off of Midland, it seems to me there's very little imagination needed to come off at about the position of the bulb on the north west end of this drawing, where the street sort of terminates. It would probably cost a lot, maybe two, to eliminate the conversation about having to come through Augusta, which I think is a mistake. I'm a neighbor of that subdivision, but we shared the heartburn of the intersection being developed. Whisperwood HOA owns its own street. We had a lot of damage to our asphalt, our properties, and to the curbing for people who didn't quite know how to make a U-turn. We had hundreds of cars the first week. That's sort of irrelevant, except to say, when we can avoid an in-subdivision traffic problem, which we're going to create for Augusta, and it's not just 2 trips a day. 20 residences, I think you guys have the answers to that, but I think it's more like 4 trips a day in and out. So 80 transits. And from my time in the daytime when I see the school traffic come, the coming out of Augusta and then turning into Whisperwood to circle back to go the other way is a common thing. So I'm in favor of the subdivision. Be nice to see that house go away. So I'm in favor of the subdivision, but I'm not in favor of how this is drawn. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience like to speak? Now is your chance. We'll bring the applicant back up if we could, please. Have you addressed the concerns, mostly about access and traffic is what I
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Blaine Woolmer, Woolmer Engineering. Yes, there's obviously a common thread through the comments, and but what happens, well, the design of the subdivision was almost handed to us, if you think about it. The city approved stub streets, for the purpose of increasing circulation in the future. That's how engineering looks at it. That's how public safety agencies such as police and fire think of it. It's not unusual at all for 29, well, it's actually somewhat unusual to have 29 homes, which I think is the Augusta lot count, to go off one access, because they are one lot away, as Christie said, from being required to have secondary access for fire access. This provides that access. The stub streets are there. Again, they're there for a reason. Our idea for access to the commercial, because that was asked, I believe, by a couple of people, and that is across the street, I think it's Aspen Grove is the street intersecting from the adjacent subdivision to the west, on the west side of Midland. That would be how the project would take access to the commercial, because the fact that Midland is a arterial and intersection spacing is dictated by code, we would not be able to get another street in there. We'd have to match up everything with Aspen Grove. And then as the conditions of approval state, if we were allowed an access onto Lake Lowell, it would be restricted to right in, right out only. So we will be taking that into account when we design the commercial, of course. But that's how the access would take place. And if we were to extend our northerly cul-de-sac north, northwest, and intersect it with Aspen Grove, it cuts the commercial in half and basically renders it unusable. The 3 acres we have there is almost a perfect size for the community commercial, with the possibility of maybe 2 buildings, two type of separate uses, maybe the professional services in one building, retail services in another. So that's, as I started this conversation, the design was almost handed to us just because of how we needed to work with existing conditions. And I believe the city, well, I know the city supports what we're doing as far as access to our subdivision and providing the secondary access to Augusta and the subdivision to the south, that I think is Murfield. So that's our response. I'm happy to discuss it further if the commission has any specific questions.
I was just checking my notes to see if anything else. I don't have anything. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Just a thought I had as looking at this, is there any, would you be opposed to zoning it to neighborhood business rather than regular BC?
I think the BC came about because of
what's already there,
the comp plan and where we are with the medium density residential. I think that's the compatible zone for that. Am I correct there, Christie?
You can do BN if you want to. It just limits what would be allowed there.
Right.
So
Just seems like it might fit there, but maybe, I don't know. We're already BC on the other 2 corners, so.
And it's been notified to the neighbors as BC. If we were to change it midstream, we'd have to go through the notification process
The
again.
last thing I want to do is make more work for you, Christie, so let's leave it at BC.
I appreciate that.
Well, and we may be able to shed a little light on what the process would be, and I need Christie's help on this specifically with the jurisdictions we work in. But if we came in with a site plan for a proposed commercial development, would that be staff review only if it complied with the BC zone permitted use and only go to this body as a conditional use, or how exactly, how
No,
far would that actually have to go
So
through the process?
if the BC zoning is approved clear through, you're annexed, it's zoned, that the only thing that you would need to do would be to go through design review and building permits at that point. Shell buildings are allowed. The uses are determined based on the tenants that then move into those shell buildings.
I guess I just picture in this corner, like, I think like the professional services like you're proposing sounds great. The gas station doesn't sound as great, but with BC, you're allowed to do any of that. But I mean, I guess I don't know if anybody else has
Commissioner
the same
Morgan.
thoughts as I do, but
This also comes with a notification for a potential development agreement. If you wanted to recommend to city council that they limit the uses that were allowed, we could do that in the development agreement.
I don't know that I want to get that ticky-tacky on a development agreement, and maybe it wouldn't, if I was those neighbors, I would hate to have a gas station there anyway, but I don't know if there's even enough room for it, but
On that corner, I don't think they would allow it in the first place.
who wouldn't allow it?
City.
If we zoned it to BC, they'd be allowed to.
Use in a BC zone, is what his point is. Like, should we?
As long as it's not coming to,
It won't be, they're bought out. Anybody else have that same concern, or is that just me?
I mean, the uses are pretty broad in the BC.
That's what I'm saying, it's pretty broad.
I don't know.
Well, I'm certainly hearing your concerns. Staff is hearing your concerns. So I think that what we would bring would be something that would be compatible to the neighborhood and satisfactory to this body.
well, we kind of thought about that on that lot to the north, and then all those storage units came in. That was kind of a surprise. Didn't think something like that would be there.
And we can't speak for city council, but I'm sure they would be as concerned on the uses that go here too, given the access. A broad comment or recommendation? Yeah.
It would still have to come back here, though. Change it, though, wouldn't it?
You're welcome to recommend whatever you want.
Right. Do that. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Staff? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Make a motion, we close public hearing.
Second.
Been moved by Miller, seconded by Solomon to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't understand the people that live in Augusta, why they're concerned. I understand that people in this new subdivision will have to go out either that way or out onto Midland, but,
Brookwood.
Huh?
Through the Brookwood?
yeah. But it's giving them another way out. If they didn't want to go, I mean, I live in that area myself, and I always turn south on Midland rather than go straight to 12th, because I don't like all that traffic down there on 12th. So I go down Midland to Greenhurst and exit out onto 12th through that way. If I lived in this subdivision, Augusta, and I wanted to go south, I wouldn't go out to Lake Lowell and then down to 12th and south. I'd go out down onto Midland. It'd be a lot faster. You don't have to worry about the traffic light, and traffic does back up at that light late in the afternoon. So I think this is a benefit to the people who live in Augusta. They think it's a detriment, but I disagree with that.
Wish that enclave piece was part of this. Make it real easy. That little
Yeah,
triangular piece on Midland.
but it's not, so we got to work with what is, not what we'd like.
Daniel, did you design Brookwood? That little curvy road there? Daniel likes curvy roads in the city.
Mr. Chair, I will agree with the applicant that the stub streets were placed there for a purpose. The purpose is to provide access to this property. The odd shapes that both Augusta, this property, and the properties that Brookwood developed on and adjacent have somewhat necessitated the way that these streets come together. And so that's I would agree that the engineering division did require those stub streets for this very purpose.
He didn't answer your question whether or not he designed that
I know,
curvy street.
You don't have to.
Mr. Chair, I was I was just out of high school when Brookwood went in, so no, I did not design that.
How do you know when that went in?
That's a thing. Is there anything he doesn't know about this town?
I was working for the city then. I just
You
not
weren't in
very
charge
high
of-
up in the hierarchy at that point.
I mean, I don't know. I think they're valid concerns on Augusta, but I think the responses are valid too, that they're public streets, and we're increasing general circulation through there, and not everybody in the subdivision is going to be exiting through Augusta. Probably anybody going east will be. So there will be added traffic, but that's what neighborhoods are, I guess. I think overall, it's a great use of this space to infill with housing that's similar to everything around it, and then to get some commercial on the intersection. Like, I think it's exactly what we're looking for. So I'm in favor of it. I've voiced my concerns about what type of commercial might go in. I don't know how to best handle that, or I don't know if there's enough room to put something there that would be bad, and I don't know what the proper way to limit that is. If we just, can you just put in a stipulation that says don't do anything bad? I really don't know.
According to Morgan.
According to, come get permission from Commissioner Morgan before you sign anything. I don't, obviously, I don't. If anybody has any suggestions on how to do that, or if nobody else shares that concern, that's fine. But generally, I'm in support.
Okay.
I want to, Mr. Chair, I want to validate the concerns about traffic coming through that neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood where when I moved in there were 3 stubs, and I knew it was only a matter of time before all of them connected to another street, and they did. And now all that area around me is built out in huge, actually 200, 300 unit subdivisions. So my concern, obviously, when those are going in is the additional traffic. But what I found, and I think this is, and maybe it's just perception, the traffic did not increase the way I thought it was going to, because people are coming and going at different times all day long.
All going in different directions.
And they're all going in different directions. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have half of these people come out onto Lake Lowell and half of these people come out onto Midland, and they're all going to be coming at different times. And I think the additional cars will be negligible unless you're out there counting them from the minute you get up until the minute you go to bed. That's when you'll really start to notice them. And that's just coming from my perspective, my opinion. I think sometimes we overthink just because the neighborhood's coming in that there's going to be 20 houses and 2 or 3 cars each, and now we're looking at 40, 50, 60 cars, and the reality it doesn't get to that point, in my opinion, in my experience. So I'm in favor of this. I love the infill, and again, I'm with the chairman is why you didn't just grab that other little piece of enclave property there somehow and get that in there.
Maybe that's where Commissioner Kehoe lives.
No. I would have sold it if it was me.
So, and yeah, in the curvy road, maybe that'll help reduce the speed a little bit. I don't know, but I'm in favor of this project.
Any suggestions on how to limit, Rodney? Without going through the list and checking them off,
I mean, we were looking at the BN zoning and what is allowed. Essentially, it comes down to a restaurant without a drive-through, a retail, and office, and what else am I missing? Like a church or a bank, or again, really related to office.
Multifamily.
No, multifamily is not allowed in the BN zone.
Not in
the BN zone. So my point there is, if those are the specific uses you want, then maybe your recommendation is to have those things as the options, and then they could incorporate that into a development agreement, rather than trying to list all the things that you don't want.
You can make that recommendation to city council, and we can vet that out with with them through
Yeah.
the staff report. I can include the list of uses for the BN zone. They can go through it when they review the staff report, and they can make a determination.
They're
if-
pretty
if
good about
that's-
saying what they don't want. What do we think?
I'm good either way. I think
Yeah.
making the recommendation is, I think that's totally legitimate. But even if it stayed BC, I'm pretty confident the developer will put something there that'll be conducive to the surrounding. You're not gonna put any storage units there, that's not gonna be allowed, but.
That's BC, it is.
Right.
Too close to the one across the street, yeah.
There's some limitations there.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh,
That-
it
Don't
is.
remember all those workshops? Okay.
That was before.
So, if there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion here.
Hit it.
All right then, I will move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS6, zoning district for .75 acres of right-of-way and 6.10 acres of developable land in BC, zoning district for 3.29 acres, potential development agreement, and subdivision preliminary plat for Audrey Acres subdivision at 941 Lake Lowell Avenue for Keyhole LLC, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report. In addition, this commission would also recommend that the city council review the commercial from BC to BN. Is that what it is? Neighborhood business, which will be included in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kirkman, seconded by Kehoe to recommend approval of this annexation and zoning item and subdivision preliminary plat to the city council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That will go to city council, and please show up, voice your concerns again, and we appreciate your time this evening.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Kirkman to adjourn and a second by everybody else. We'll give it to Kehoe, though, since he gets all the seconds. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you again.